Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Welcome, everybody. My name is Mariana Laxage. I live in Turin. I am from Argentina, and I've been teaching English for the last 24 years to children mainly. Today we are going to talk about the idea, the approach of teaching English, how to learn, teaching children how to learn. And we will also see some practical activities on how to integrate this approach into our classes. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Before I start, I would like to know, where are you from? Where are you joining us? From which places in Italy? Can you, Milan? Okay, I see some answers here. Padua, Napoli, Vicenza, Bolzano, Roma, Milan, Sicily. Excellent. From all over Italy. Good. Nice to know. Okay, so let's begin. Let's start. I'm going to show you my first slide with a quote from an author that maybe you know. Do you know him? Do you all know him? His name was Dr. Seuss. He was a children author. He authored books like The Grinch, Who Stole Christmas, Cat in a Hat, and many others, The Lorax. And this is his quote: "It is better to know how to learn than to know." What do you think? Do you agree with this or you don't? Can you write your answers in the chat box, please? It is better to know how to learn than to know. Okay, I agree. Someone is agreeing. Agree. Totally agree. Yes, I agree. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Well, the idea of knowing how to learn means that learning is a lifelong journey. So if we know how to learn, we can learn over the whole life. So this is something that we should transfer to our students, hopefully, and we will see how to do it today. So I want you to think about you as a learner. What has been your experience of learning to learn? What learning strategies have you tried? Can you write some of your strategies in the chat box, please? You as a learner, for example, let's say taking notes when the teacher was speaking, or highlighting keywords, or writing grids, or mind maps. Any storytelling. Okay, I see one here, storytelling. Anything else, please? Strategies that you have tried as a learner to learn better. Maps and underline words, total physical response, writing notes and highlighting. Okay, excellent. I like to learn visually. Perfect. You are like me. I need to have everything written and close to my eyes. Otherwise, I forget things. Mind maps, speech and visual aids, listening and reading books. Keywords using colors. Excellent. Brilliant. Buon pomeriggio, Sara. Okay. And how about you as a teacher? You as a teacher, do you encourage your pupils to become more independent? What challenges do you face? How would you define learning to learn in your classroom, in your context? Can you please answer in the chat box? I want to know what you think, what you do. Oh, they are shy to speak. Yes, this is one of your challenges, I imagine, Elena. Anything else? Playing, acting, okay. real tasks. Okay, Annalisa, this is nice. I encourage my students to speak up, to play using English, they have difficulties in speaking. Okay, speaking seems to be one of the issues for you. To be able to organize. Very good. Here we get to the point to organize, because organizing learning is something that especially primary children have quite difficult. Read, encourage. Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. So we move on, and we will just briefly get into the rationale of what is learning to learn. Um, Learning to learn is, as I said before, an approach which incorporates a wide range of activities designed to develop metacognitive awareness in learners. So metacognition, it's a word that involves all the things that have to do with learning to learn. So the strategies we need to learn effectively. And the important thing of metacognition is that focuses on the process and the product. So not only on the result of the task, but how we get there, all the stages and the activities we need to do and produce to get there. Of course, I mean, the background of this theory grounds on a philosophy of constructivism originating in the work of Piaget, Brunner, and most recently Vygotsky. I'm sure that many of you have studied it at the university as you are teachers, you are pedagogists, so I'm not going to get into depth about this theory, but it's just to let you know that what I'm talking about is grounded on that kind of idea, the zone of proximal development, Vygotsky theory. So let's move on. Why is learning to learn so important? Well, learning to learn is important, especially these days, our days, that seems that the world is changing so fast. What we used to teach in the past probably is not important anymore. Our students need new skills to cope with this fast changing world. And so it's so important, and information is all over there. I mean, it's in the internet, it's on Google, it's easier now to find information. But what we know is not enough. I mean, we have to transmit skills to our students, how to process all that amount of information. It is also important because it values every child. I mean, using learning to learn in the classroom is inclusive. You can find and you can foster strategies for students who are higher achievers or lower achievers. This means that increases confidence and self-esteem, sustains all learning in all areas of the curriculum and in life, so the strategies they use in the English classroom can be transferred to other subjects, trains children to understand how and what they are learning, as well as why they are learning it. And this is why increases motivation, because sometimes children, they don't know why they are learning, what they are learning. Starts children off their own personal journey towards better work habits, organizational skills, self-knowledge, self-reliance, autonomy, and commitment in their learning. So they have to be owners of the journey towards successful learning and becoming successful students even at university, or it doesn't matter, I mean, if they are going to work, but to be the owners of this process. And it also helps teachers to adjust to the specific needs of learners we teach. I mean, using these strategies, some of them we will see them later, help us teachers to pitch our plans, to see what they really, really need, and if we are doing well or not. It's a way of also self-assess our teaching. I see lots of comments here. Thank you very much. I will read them later. Indeed, Emilia, they become conscious about their knowledge and can improve or help a friend to learn. Exactly. Excellent. Thank you. So here, the thing is our role. Probably, I mean, to use this kind of approach, we have to rethink our role. And we have to think that we need to be a different person at different moments. So, first of all, in the primary classroom, as we know, the class is very teacher-led. I mean, children need an adult that guides them. So the first things we do is to set procedures, routines, clear instructions, negotiating criteria, assessment criteria, goals. So this is the first role we take, the procedural role. The second role we take is the behavioral role. We are a role model for our children. So if we are reflective, if we are autonomous, if we interact well with them, if we are respectful, they're going to take that from us. So this is the second role, being a role model, a behavioral model for our children. And the third role is the interactional role. So giving feedback to them, conversating with them, chatting with them, seeing what they need, negotiating all the time with them. So interacting and showing them how to interact and collaborate with peers and with adults as well, with parents, with other teachers, with headmasters. So this is the third role we have to take in the classroom. What are the benefits of learning to learn? Well, there are many benefits to training our learners to learn. But some of them are here in my slide, and they are going to appear here. Well, as I said before, it helps rise and maintain motivation. I know that we all face that difficult moment in the classroom when we see our children a bit low, or they are kind of sleepy, they don't want to do things. But if we get them to know how well and how much they can do, and that what they are doing is for themselves, in the long run, it will pay. I mean, it's a long process, but it will pay in the long run, believe me. At least this is my experience. It promotes children's active involvement in their own learning. So they become more organized, they become more responsible. It builds up confidence and self-esteem because they can self-evaluate which are their strengths and which are their weaknesses. And so to find the balance and see that they are good learners, they are efficient learners. It helps to improve social skills because many of the activities that we will see now, they are through pair work, group work, or even interacting with teachers. So improving social skills, so it has also a background of civic education in a way. It encourages children awareness of their own progress, so they know where they are, where they are going to, what they need to do to get there. Skills and strategies are transferable to other subjects and areas of learning. As I said, I mean, these strategies can perfectly used to learn history, math, science, Italian, whatever. It encourages children to set high personal standards. This is another thing that has to do with motivation, that sometimes children feel that they are not capable, that they are not good enough. But if they see their progress, if they see where they start and then they see where they got, they start mm, setting for themselves higher standards, higher goals, and different objectives. Children take on increasing responsibility for their own learning because they are more organized, they know what they have to do, they have clear idea, the schedule, the deadlines, and things like that. They become increasingly self-aware, reflective, organized, and independent. And the last thing is that life in the classroom becomes easier for us. I mean, the more independent children are, the less we work in a way. So our role mainly is to facilitate and to give them strategies to work on their own and to find the information they need, providing them lots of sources and materials where they can find that information, and then they will process it properly with the tools we are giving them. So, how can we do this in the primary classroom? This is what we will start talking about now. We will see some practical examples from Celtic publishing books. I'm drinking some water, sorry.
Excuse me, Mariana.
Yes.
Could you please speak louder, as someone can't hear very
yes,
well?
of course.
Okay, thank
I'm
you.
speaking louder now.
Okay.
So I have divided the strategies into 3 points in the lesson, or even in the term, or even in the year or the unit. So there are some strategies that can be done before tasks, some others that can be done during tasks, and some others that can be done after doing tasks. So the first one, the first column, as you can see, are before doing tasks. So for example, are selecting and setting goals, deciding on criteria to measure how well the task can be done, analyzing the task, its purpose, and what has to be done, working out timing of stages, activating prior knowledge. Then we have strategies that can be done during tasks. So, which means that we as teachers, we are monitoring all the time and checking, understanding, providing feedback, correcting, and moving around the class and see how things are doing. So, some of them are identifying key vocabulary, predicting text content, guessing meaning of new words, asking for clarification, drafting work, risk-taking and experimenting with new language, organizing work, personalizing learning. And then we have the strategies that they can learn to use after doing tasks, deciding how to remember new words, making visuals aid to aid memory, reviewing work alone, with a peer, or in small groups, exchanging work with a partner and asking for feedback, comparing work with previous work and deciding how it has improved, editing work, and summarizing work. So all these strategies have to do with the 4 skills, but mainly with those who are the productive skills like speaking and writing, because fluency is not only in speaking but also in writing. So today we are going to concentrate on listening, writing and reading mainly, and some speaking. So moving on to the practical side of the activities. Here we have an activity that I have selected from Happy Days 1 and 2. Happy Days 1 and 2. This is the story time at the end of the unit. The book has been structured this way that at the end of each unit there is a story that summarizes the items, the vocabulary, the structures that children have covered during the whole unit. And at the end there is a story that, as you can see, it has no nouns, no words. There's not written text, just images and pictures. So what I thought in this case, as children are this young, we are not going to do the after task strategy because they are still a bit young for that, for reflecting, because usually the after task is a reflection task and they are too young for that. We need to train them to that, but maybe later, not in the first and second grade. But what we can do is to train them to start thinking creatively and to start thinking in an abstract way, using imagination. And so that's why prediction is so important for this age. And so the idea is that before listening to the story, they predict the story. And this is the activity that I have designed. So you ask children to look at the pictures and guess what the story is about. You elicit words from the whole unit and write them in the board. I don't know if you're using a whiteboard or a blackboard, so that I wrote just a board. So you elicit words, you write them in your board, so children can see the words and they can see all the things they know, a kind of activating prior knowledge. When they have all these words from the unit, which in this case are numbers, because this is from the student book 1, they listen to the story and they check. And they check if the words that they were in the board are in the story. And after that, you run an open class feedback and you discuss with the children where you right, where you're wrong, etc. After that, you have to decide how to remember words. Because in these pictures, as you can see, there are many other things that don't have to do with numbers. And that probably children will ask you, what is that? What is that? What is that? So this can be an opportunity as a springboard to extend vocabulary, and so to write other words that were not in the book, but they can learn. In that way, you can invite them or set up this activity that they write new words that have emerged during the lesson in a list on the board. This is what you do, and then they create their own picture dictionary. They copy the words on the board and draw or paste the corresponding picture next to each other. And this is also an exercise to get them writing and copying words, especially for first graders. That is something that they have to practice and practice, so writing, copying, matching, associating pictures, and so on. So this is very important. And this is the listening activity. Okay, then let's move on to the next activity. And here we are still, we are still with happy days. This is for third graders. Here there is an activity that has to do with family. And so I have selected these 3 strategies for this page, for this set of vocabulary. So they start, this is the before task, selecting and setting goals using what you can see here, a KWL chart. So what I know, what I wonder or want to know, and what I learned. So children do the chart. You elicit students' prior knowledge of the topic, again, about the family, all the things they know from the unit, not only vocabulary, but also grammar structures. When they get to the column, so they brainstorm all the things they know, and so they can see how much they know, and you can see how much they know. After that, they start asking questions or things they would like to know, and this is the set, they set a purpose for learning from then on. I would like to know more about this. I want to learn these words. I want, for example, they can write that in Italian, of course. And after that, the last column helps them monitor their comprehension, how much they have learned from that unit. Once they have completed this chart, that can be done again on the board, they can be done individually, in pairs, in small groups. This is something that you have to decide. We come to the personalizing work. This is very important for children to remember, to memorize words, to relate what they are learning to their own personal world. And especially talking about family, I think it's very important that children have the opportunity to represent their families the way they are, because children have families, especially these days, with completely different contexts and formats. So we are giving them the opportunity to show the rest of the class their own family. We as teachers have the opportunity to value every kind of family in the classroom. And another thing, again, trying to extend vocabulary, they can add friends, neighbors, relatives, pets, animals, I mean, all the things that they consider family or dear to them. So after that, the activity is that they draw a picture and they label the people's names and the degree of kinship. This is very important to consolidate all the vocabulary learned during the unit and extend it as well, adding other words that maybe were not covered in the unit. At the end of this activity, what they can do, this is the after task strategy, they can exchange this work with a partner and ask for feedback. And to do that, I have thought that they can use this activity called 2 stars and a wish, which is done in pairs. So each other say to the companion 2 things they liked about the work and 1 thing that they could have done differently, not better, but differently. So in this way, they are exchanging opinions. They are starting to exchange opinions. Of course, this kind of activity needs a lot of guidance from the teacher and monitoring. So you put children in pairs, but you keep going around the class, monitoring, talking to them, correcting, eliciting words, feeding them with ideas to train them to do this activity better and better in the future, in the long run. because probably the first time it won't be successful, but please don't be scared. Try again, insist, and they will get used to that very soon. Let's move on. Here we have a different book. Sorry, I need to drink some water. I'll be back in a second. And here we have You and Me, Friends. You and Me, Friends is another book by Celtic Publishing, which is structured in a different way. I don't know if you are familiar with it, but it's structured by, is what we call, is a task-based approach book. So at the end of each unit, you will find a compiti di realtà. So they are going to put together all they have learned during the unit in something which is original and made by themselves. In this case, the class project is a writing task, which is a lovely idea, but I know that probably you will agree with me that when it comes to writing autonomously, children really struggle. I mean, and I think it's something they struggle even in Italian. It's not just in English. So if they struggle in Italian, can you imagine in English? So that's why it is so important that we guide them and scaffold the activity very, very thoroughly to allow them to become independent, but they need a lot of guidance. So, and as you see, this activity is lovely because they have to invent a routine to an imaginary character, but they have to use, of course, the structures and the vocabulary from the unit, which in this case are routines and everyday activities, present simple, things like this. So here we are. This is my plan. So the before task strategy is deciding on criteria to measure how well the task can be done. And this is very important. This is the kind of guidance we can provide them, setting clear criteria for them to start off the writing. So, first of all, we have to determine how many sentences, 5, 10, 8, what do you think it's enough? So everyone knows that that's the average they need to write. What sets of vocabulary? And again, we brainstorm the vocabulary, routines, present simple, etc. Which kind of tenses and verbs? Accuracy. Are we going to pay attention to accuracy? Is it important? Do you remember third person? That it takes the S, and brainstorming all this and prompting children always on the board, making clear that everyone knows before starting what they have to do. Before that, also elicit ideas and possible stories, characters, the wolf, Little Red Riding Hood, Superman, Spider-Man, whatever. So you write a list of characters, names, and possible stories, and write as well prompts on the board. For example, the starting of a sentence or how to finish, the words they need to know that they have to include in the text. So once all this is set, so the procedural role that we talked before, they start drafting the work. This is very important that children get to know that before producing something which is finished, they have the opportunity to draft work, to write, to brainstorm, to make a list of things, then start off the sentences. Someone is going to correct it, going to give feedback, and they will have the opportunity to edit the work at the end. So in this case, drafting work, we are also concentrating on this strategy of focusing on the process of writing more than in the product. So this is also important for them, that they get these strategies. After they have finished that, they can, you of course monitor, check, and see how well they are doing, if they need help, or someone can help each other. So you encourage collaboration. They have their draft, you corrected it, and so they can edit that. The work can be edited at school, in the class, or it can be edited at home. This is something that you have to decide. It depends on the time you have. Can be a follow-up activity, of course. And at the end of this task, they can make a classroom poster, they can paste them onto a Padlet if you're working online, or if they are doing it at home and have the opportunity to access a Padlet that you have created for them to paste all their stories. And at the end, you can organize a show and tell event in the classroom with parents one day. Hopefully, we will be able to do that again. And in that way, if you organize this show and tell in the classroom, everyone needs to present the story and talk and speak. But before speaking, they have a text that is, how can I say, supporting them, that has been well presented, well structured, corrected, and so their oral production will be accurate as well. And here we are coming to the last activity. This is for Quinta Elementare, You and Me Friends 5 again. This is again at the end of Unit 1. It's also Invalsi training, which I know that many of you might contest or don't like, but it's something that we have to accept and we have to do it the best we can, because it's also training our students to become successful learners. I mean, this is the world. Tests are all over the place. So what I what I designed around this activity are these 3 strategies. The first one is activating prior knowledge. As you see, it's very common in my planning. So you brainstorm the vocabulary. This is with text closed, so the books are closed. They are not looking at any picture or text. So you elicit vocabulary from the units and the general knowledge about the character, which in this case is Samantha Cristoforetti. Very interesting character, very positive model for children. So you elicit vocabulary from the unit and general knowledge about her, what her routine could be, how is she like, what's her job, etc. And before doing the activity as it is planned in the book, I would suggest that you do a blind listening. A blind listening is a very effective activity to train students to get more familiar with listening texts. I'm sure that you might agree that listening is challenging for all students. I'm saying even up to secondary school. Listening is still very challenging for many people learning English. And most texts present the listening activities with the reading, with the text, which is good, of course, it is necessary, but we can do an extra activity before that, which is this blind listening, which means you cover the text, you play the audio, and children have to write all the sentences and the words they hear without pictures, without text. So they concentrate even more highly into what they are listening. And it's also a very good strategy to finding keywords within the text. You can repeat this task if necessary, maybe one or twice or thrice. It depends in the level of your classroom, of course. After that, after you have collected all the words and sentences, etc., then you open the book, they look the text, and they listen to the text, read and listening, and they check how much, how near they got to the text with their brainstorm. And it's surprisingly, it's incredible how much they know. Believe me, try this activity. I highly recommend it because it's surprisingly how much they know. They really know much more than what they think. After that, you ask them to highlight the key vocabulary in the text, and this is going to help them to find the right answer in the reading comprehension part of the activity, because they know the keywords, they listen to the text, they activated their prior knowledge, and so they are ready to do the activity and they will do it very well. At the end, you can run an open class feedback to see how it went, what were the issues, the part that they found more difficult, etc. And at the end, the post-task strategy, you can get children into small groups. They talk about the task and the text and how well they did and what could have done better. Again, kind of 2 stars and a wish. If you've been practicing this activity with the class, you can do it again with them. And at the end, again, an open class feedback. I'm going to play the listening of this activity, just for you to have an idea the level of the book and what the level required for quinta elementare.
Page 21. Listen and read the text. Cross the correct option. The first one, 0, is an example.
Samantha Cristoforetti is a famous Italian astronaut. This is her daily routine on the International Space Station. She gets up at 7 o'clock and she washes with a special soap. Astronauts can't have a shower because there's no gravity. She has breakfast at 8 o'clock. She has 3 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Food is different in space, but it's good. There's tea, fruit juice, lemonade, and coffee to drink. Samantha always drinks Italian espresso. She works on science experiments. She exercises about an hour and a half in the gym every day. After dinner, she relaxes. She chats with the other astronauts or talks to her family on Skype.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mariana. We can't hear very well. We can't hear very well, unfortunately. Can you try again to send it?
Sorry, shall I play the
audio
again? Okay, yes, no problem.
Listen and read the text. Cross the correct option. The first one, 0, is an example.
Samantha Cristoforetti is a famous Italian astronaut. This is her daily routine on the International Space Station. She gets up at 7 o'clock and she washes with a special soap. Astronauts can't have a shower because there's no gravity. She has breakfast at 8 o'clock. She has 3 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Food is different in space, but it's good. There's tea, fruit juice, lemonade, and coffee to drink. Samantha always drinks Italian espresso. She works on science experiments. She exercises about an hour and a half in the gym every day. After dinner, she relaxes. She chats with the other astronauts or talks to her family on Skype.
Okay, it's finished. Could you hear it? This was just to give you an idea of the level of the invalsi at Quinta Elementare. But before approaching the reading comprehension task, it's better to do all this previous work, leading children into the task, and they will surprisingly perform much better. At the end of this activity, of course, you can also run a speaking task, a discussion about Samantha Cristoforetti, her unusual routines. They can also personalize and compare their routines to hers, or you can put them into small groups and they can also write about another character that have unusual routines and compare it with Samantha Cristoforetti. I mean, the possibilities are endless. I'm nearly finishing my talk. Maybe I rushed too much, but we will have time for questions later. Before that, I would like you to think about reflect, because all my talk it's about reflection. I mean, training children to reflect, to become aware, to be more responsible, to be more organized. So I'm going to model this with you, asking you to think about what you heard, what you saw during my presentation, and if there is something new you learned or something that you've confirmed that you've been doing or that you've been thinking, but maybe you were a bit scared of trying it out in the classroom. Please write in the chat. Okay, the KWL chat. I think that everything was clear and useful. Thank you. Using Padlet to do final show and tell. Thank you, Mariana. Okay, Padlet is an amazing tool, to me at least. Everything was clear and useful. Using the importance to give feedback. Yes, this is key. This is key to learning to learn. Feedback, how important it is. Giving and receiving feedback. It's also important that you give room for children to give you feedback about the activities you do, the pace, the way you organize your lessons, and how you use the book, new knowledge, the fact of eliciting what they think they are going to listen and read. Okay, Marilisa, thank you. I learned this, I must admit, I have to thank my French teacher a couple of years ago who taught me this strategy. Syllogism, try blind listening, okay, planning each step is essential. Definitely, in the primary classroom, we need to be very, very well prepared. You can go not so well prepared in an adult class, but not with children. We need to have a plan A, B, and C. We never know how they are going to feel, if they are going to be in the right mood, if they are tired, if they are moody or whatever. So we need to have a lot of activities, and we have to plan it very, very carefully. Everything very interesting. Thank you. Whole talk, everything was useful. Okay, interesting. Giving feedback. Okay, giving feedback. The idea of two stars and a wish. Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions, please? If you have questions, we have quite a lot of time to ask and answer questions. If you want to ask me anything, please write it in the chat box. I have one here. Do you think it is useful for very young students, I mean grade 1, to learn how to write words, copying them from the board or the book, or can they get confused? No, I think it is important that they start writing and copying words. They don't get confused, don't you worry. I mean, we are living in a world today that it's always more and more multilingual. Children are bilingual, trilingual, some of them, and the brain has its way to separate languages and structures. So it is important that very, very slowly, we train them to copy words in English and the pictures. So I would do it. This is my humble opinion, but I don't know, probably your experience is different. The last activity is very interesting. Yes, the blind listening. It's always useful. There are no questions, no questions. Does anyone else want to ask me a question? What about the final unit tests? Are them divided by skills? I mean, all texts have end of unit kind of test or self-evaluation. But the one I showed here was specifically for invalsi, training children for invalsi. You know that in quinta elementare, second grade and fifth grade, they have invalsi tests. So that test I showed you was for invalsi. And it's a reading comprehension task with a multiple choice. So they need to be trained to face that kind of activity. And I thought that the blind listening could be one. About audios, can we download them on internet? I don't know how to answer to this question. Maybe Elisa or Francesca can answer to that. Listening.
Yes. Yes, so the audios can be downloaded on the digital book. They are available on the digital book. So everything is online.
Everything is online.
Yes.
On Raffaello.
Yes, on the Raffaello player.
Yes.
There's Raffaello player. It's a digital book, and inside you'll find all the audios linked to the pages. So everything is accessible and available. Okay.
Thank you, Francesca.
You're welcome.
So, well, if there are no more questions, this is all for today from me. I'm showing you just a quote to finish off the day. Remember that it's not about what it is, but it's about what it can become. So please do not stick with the idea that student is or learn in a way or another. Try as many strategies as you can and support them and scaffold their learning so they can become beautiful trees like in the Lorax story, okay? And don't forget to participate to the next webinar, Boost Your Grammar, with Francesco Cotichella next week. Thank you very much. It's been a great opportunity to meet you all here today. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.